Alright, so a quick video on how to fix your PS3 controllers or your aftermarket PS3 controllers. Maybe you've got buttons getting pressed when you're not pressing them, or your R1, R2s are getting pressed when you're not pressing them. So you're selecting things on screen or loading into different games when you're not meant to. Or the other problem can be, like the problem this one's got, this one's been given to me where it's getting plugged in, and sometimes it's charging, sometimes it's not. When you drop it, the controller down, it's disconnecting. Then you've got to wiggle the cord in there, and then away it goes. But it's not charging properly either. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is actually look at the charger itself. Okay, so these here are prone for the solder actually getting busted in them. And you look at, they get frequently used. So what you're going to do is just get yourself something to zoom in on it, like your phone or whatever. Just make sure that there's no crud inside there, and make sure the pins aren't bent. So you see there, we're looking pretty good in there. Okay, so the next thing you want to do, get back out, is get yourself a screwdriver or a knife. Well, actually no, use a flathead screwdriver, don't use a knife, and just give that a wee wiggle in the middle, see if there's any movement. If there's not, then come to your side bit and give that a wee wiggle, and actually that does actually have movement. Just slight, but it's enough. There is a wee bit of movement on that outer casing. So I mean, if you find that your outer casing's all wobbly and loose, that's going to be your problem. It's actually inside on the board, the solder would have broken. So you just got to take this apart and resolder that, and that should be your problem all fixed there, okay? And if you've still got issues, I mean, you can give these a quick clean out. Actually, I do see there's a speck of something there. So we'll just give that a quick clean out with some alcohol. Alright, so the next problem you might have, so we'll get into this, I'll show you that loose once we get it open. And of course the other thing with the buttons, okay, there's going to be two options for that. Number one, if it's an old controller, you get a lot of dust build up, over time cleaning them, your cleaning fluids going in behind these buttons and things, and that accumulates underneath. So of course you go to press your button and there's all this crud on there. So if you've got buttons not working and buttons going haywire, it could be build up of crud underneath it. So once we get this apart, I'll show you, just quickly clean that up with a bit of alcohol and a swab, or an air cleaner thing. Give them a clean, you should be away. But there is one other issue now. If you've got a brand new controller and you've just bought it and it's doing the button haywire thing, so that, it's pressing buttons when you don't want to press them. Most of us think, oh, it's just new, it needs wearing in, press the buttons hard out to try and fix it. It's not going to fix the problem. Okay, normally what the problem is, if they've been in storage a while, there's a little, I'll show you in a minute, there's a little bit of foam in here that the circuit board piece folds down onto, and sometimes that can get flattened out. And some of the later model ones, which you're going to find on this, they've actually made it a bit different, where it's not just pressed, so you don't got that problem. So you'll see here, just pull this one apart so you can see what's in here. Now these ones here, the motor wiring's quite small, so you've got to take the motor off with it. But you'll see here, this one, it's actually got a plug set up, which is brilliant. But you'll notice there, alright, if you can, I'll just lean this up on something here. Now, if you can see in there, this is actually on an angle slightly. What can we do here? Right. Don't know if you've seen that, but that's actually been placed in slightly on an angle, and you'll see there at the black piece itself needs a bit of pressing down as well. Okay, so I'll be taking that out, getting it clean, but you'll notice on the far left hand side there, just over here, as I say, this is a brand new controller, it hasn't been used and it's going haywire. Yeah, there's actually some here in the contacts, so when this has been put together, they've actually put it together for here and there as well, so that's probably arcing them off. So we'll be taking that out, pressing that down firm, and then pressing this back, clearing it clean and pressing that back in firm as well. Okay, but I'll show you the other issue that can happen with them. Now, of course, if we turn it up the other way, so we've got our circuit board here, so this is where your pad up, down buttons are all touching here. Okay, you'll see there the wee pads there. So what you want to do is just give them a quick clean. So I've got a bit of alcohol in here. As I say, you just want to alcohol and a bit of swab. I mean, I'm using a cotton thingy, but that's just because I'm out of the air cleaner swabs. Alright, so we come over here, same thing. Alright, so they've come up all good. Right, now we've got to get to that part where we've got to pull this thing out and get the hair out and clean that piece up as well. You can see more of the angle that is on there too. Alright, so we've got that hair out of there. So that here was contacting the other end. But I do notice here there is actually we just need to give this a clean. You notice right there, don't know if you can see it in the video, but right there between those two, something's been happening there. And there is over here two that have been contacting with a bit of dusty stuff, something there. So just going to clean that up and get that put back in. And that one should be all the way. Okay, so that one's had all the wee contacts cleaned up. All the dust taken out. We'll put that back in and that controller should be fine. And then we'll get on to the next controller's problem. Now if you do have troubles, of course, before you put this board back in, make sure you've taken the buttons completely out. That's what I've been doing for years. It just makes it a bit easier. So if you find you're battling a bit, it could be because you've left the buttons in. So once you put all your board back in, then reinsert the buttons. Okay, it'll just make things a lot easier for you. Okay. Now if you haven't done that, you'd be sitting there trying to push this in and get it lined up, and then this rubber will bend back on you and everything. So if you do that, insert it all in the buttons. Okay. Now the next thing, the key thing here, you'll see there's a spring right at the end. Okay, you have to get that up on that bit there. Alright, you'll see that the wee plastic bit there, and of course that's what's going to spring load your buttons. So make sure that that springs in there as you bring this around, so that way it keeps that button sprung out. Okay. Alright, so there's the first controller fixed. Alright, so get onto the PS3 controller now, the actual the Sony one. Just to mention too, when you do pull apart the Chinese ones, when you've got it upside down here, of course what you do is press that in as you pull it out. There's a wee clip in the back of these that normally hold them, on some of the models anyway. Alright, but anyway, right, we'll get to the PS3 controller. Still got a screw on there. And of course the first thing you'll notice once we take this off, of course your PS3 two buttons are actually on this part of on this controller anyway. They're actually on the actual main part there, clipped in. Okay, you'll find that on the majority of the PS3 ones. Alright, so now we're just going to check a couple of things. Number one, as I said, we had a bit of slop on this that was moving, so we've got to check the solder on the other side of the circuit board. Plus we've got to clean up the contacts. So we'll just quickly undo this board. It's just one screw here, just there. And it's the same with all your different controllers. There's one screw normally holding it down. Okay, so just grab that out. Okay, so we've got that out. And you see here, the contacts here. So this is one of the pad ones. So you see all those there. We're going to give them a bit of a clean up. Does actually look like there's a bit of build up of some sort of corrosion or something starting there anyway. Okay, so if you come over to here, okay, you'll see here, I've got to give that a clean up as well, but under here is a wee bit of padding. So on these model ones, once you get that, there's a wee lug there, just be careful not to rip it. Okay, so we've got that plastic bit off that lug there. So now what you want to do is just grab this bit here. These can get a bit compressed over time. And as I say, some of the aftermarket ones, I mean, they've actually improved the design on them as we've just seen before. They've got them as you plug in, so this doesn't end up being a problem. So that's great for the aftermarket ones. Good plan on the change of design there, having it so it goes in. So you'll see here, you know, and the same with the aftermarket ones, even if they're brand new, they might have been sitting on the shelf for a long time, and this is just squashed out completely. So just get yourself something you can put on the back there, a couple bits of masking tape or tape, anything just on the back side, and that's just so we can, in this part here, we can just pack it up a little bit. so then it's touching that fully again. Okay. Alright, so you see here what I've done, I've just packed that up with a bit of masking tape. So that's just your normal masking tape there. So that's actually got 2 layers of masking tape on the bottom of that, just to pack it up a wee bit. So now we can insert that back into there. And once you've got it inserted, just remember to give everything a quick wipe down with an alcohol swab, just to make sure the contacts are going to be fine once everything's all pressed down. We don't want any dust in there. Okay. Oh yeah, that's sticking out lots more than it was. That's going to make a big difference. Right, so now I'm just going to get the alcohol in here, and give that a wee clean up in here. Clean up on that side, clean up on that side, and then come over to your circuit board and clean up on this. And then we can press all that back down, and put it together. Now if you're having troubles, you think it might be dust on the buttons, while you've got this apart, quickly take this off as well. Okay, and we'll get in and just check the pads on the bottom of the buttons. Right, so yeah, straight away, I mean, I do see a couple of issues already. I mean, this one is getting quite worn. Don't know if this is coming up in the camera, if you can actually see quite a greyed area in the middle here, where it's been hammered quite a bit, right in the very centre. Actually, don't think that is coming up, is it? Oh yeah, there. So you can see a bit of grey stuff in the middle there. So you can see it's getting worn out. So we're just going to clean them up, make sure it cleans up okay. If you get into the stage where you clean them up and that's all worn and it's worn through, well, it is going to be buggered. But if you can clean these up and that comes right, you're going to be fine. And we've got the other part cleaned up. So once they're all cleaned up, all that wear mark stuff's taken off. And I mean, if it has been got a bit of wear marks on there, just go into here, could be dust in that, and just clean up the actual ends, the rubber ends that come down and hit them. Like you see here, there's a bit of crud on this one. Right there, there's more on that one. So zoomed in, you can see that there is a bit of stuff on, in it. And when you look at the controller, how much dust has actually gone in there over time. So I'm going to give this a bit of a clean out, and then we'll get this back together. But it's, yeah, basically everything you need to know about that one for fixing that. And, well, actually the other thing we wanted to look at was the circuit board, because this one did have a loose outer casing piece. It's not extremely bad, which is, I don't know if you can see that, there's just this little tiny movement, but it's enough to make that there's a problem there. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to run the soldering iron in here, and don't want to touch them down on there, but we're just going to quickly zap it right there, right here, right on the side over here, and there, just quickly, a quick touch just to renew that solder. And I can actually see from moving it where the brake is. The brake's actually in this one over here on this side. We may be able to even see no, you can't. But so that one there is actually the issue, which would mean that this one over here is pretty much not far away from doing it too. So we're just going to quickly solder that, going to clean that up, get this back together, and let's have a go. Alright, so we've got this all cleaned up, alcohol cleaned, and the top of this, when I was doing this one, I did notice this one did actually have quite a bit of crud build up on this end, where it hadn't been quite, been arcing off, not doing its thing properly. So you'll notice here, right, everything's clean. So those faded bits I was talking about, we've got those, the actual, well actually I know you're going to see a different faded bit, but I mean, earlier on when we've seen that bit in the middle, separate bit of fadedness, we've actually got rid of that. So this one should be all up and go. Last thing I've got to do is just quickly reheat this solder just to get that to reconnect properly. Okay, and then we're ready to put this all back together. Now with the PS3 controllers, I said it's easier, you take this button out and put it in last. It is, but with these controllers, what you want to do is just, when you're putting that button in, just lift this slightly, so that way the middle of that button over here that lines up with the wee rubber bit, line it up with that, and then push down and insert it all at the same time. Okay. Alright, so I've just given that a touch of solder. Now just pay to check as well, like there's no movement in that, but plug a cord in while it's apart so you know. Okay, now you want to do is just see if you've got any play in that cord. you know, backwards and forwards. You see there is a bit of play there. If we can get a decent angle on this whiz. Don't know if you can see that there, that wiggling. You see there's a bit of movement there. So what I'm going to do, just because that movement will get worse and worse over time, the more people are holding the controllers with the cable hanging out of it. So go up and down. Right, you'll see I've got no play going up and down. It's just side to side where the play is. So I'm just going to get a wee pair of pliers and I'm just going to crimp those sides just slightly, just to make that a bit tighter so that slop doesn't get any worse. That's something you don't have to do. I'm just doing this while I'm here. Alright, you see now, there's no wiggle play in it at all now. Okay, no left to right. So, I mean, if you have got that problem, you did want to fix that, and you're like, hang on, you didn't even show us what you did. I'll just quickly show you. Now, just remember, don't go too overboard with the pressure of it. Okay, so what you'll be doing is just coming in here with your pliers, and you'll see down that bottom ridge. Okay, so what I do is just squeeze here on the bottom ridge, just to bring it in a wee bit. And I got a wee squeeze there as well. Okay, you don't want much, we just wanted to get rid of that play. And you don't want to go overboard, you don't want to break the thing. Alright, so basically that's all your problems. Buttons, everything, they should be all fixed now. So we've gone over the aftermarket one, gone over your normal PlayStation one. I have got another aftermarket one there we can quickly pull apart. I mean, this one's good to go, put it together, I know it's going to work. Alright, so we've got another one here as well. Let's have a quick look at this. Notice the battery setup, and this one's a lot cheaper than the other aftermarket one. The other aftermarket one had one similar to PS3 in size. Mind you, it might be, it's quite wide. Very different battery setup. Oh yeah, so this one here is actually a pronged one on there, so this one here is going to be a slightly different issue. It could just be a bit of crud on the buttons, etc. So anyway, that's your fixes. We've gone over them, we've gone over the padders. Some of the aftermarket ones, the older ones, still run on this pad design, but as you can see from the video that we started with, and as you can see from this in here, they've actually changed the design and they've gone to a plug-in, which is, well, so much better. Alright, see that. Yes, this one's actually not too bad. Now I did notice there is some people having troubles with their analogs. I mean, we've just gone over all the fixes for your buttons, and buttons gone haywire. Okay, so that's completed. But I mean, I have heard some people saying that these aftermarket ones, that the analogs, and I've come across it too, sometimes the analog doesn't work properly. Like you go to calibrate it and you press up, it doesn't work, or you might press left and it doesn't work. Okay. Now, I'd say the reason for that is the patterns. You know, it's an aftermarket one, so they've probably got an old pattern, and it ends up being a bit thicker. So if you have got one that's not, you know, not full on turning left and right or up and down, not going correctly, you can take your cover off, replug your controller in, and see if it works then. Okay, so then you know it's not a fault with this. What it actually is, I'm saying it's just, you know, because they've had to use a pattern. This ridge here, you actually need to file some of that out of there, because sometimes your analog is hitting that plastic before it's actually registering down on its remote that you've pressed up or left or right. Okay, so if you do have that trouble, I mean, it's pretty good on most of the ones these days. Some of the older ones, it was a huge problem, but it does depend on your supplier, what supplier you're getting them from, is what I've noticed. But yeah, so you just find you get a file in here, and just file that out slightly, and then that'll give you, but as I say, take your cover off first and just check, make sure your controller isn't buggered. But if that does work, once that cover's off, that's your problem. Okay, so just come in here with a bit of sandpaper or a wee file, just keep going around evenly so it doesn't look all rough and hoary. Alright, and you'll be away. So that's basically all your fixes with controller. So good luck with the gaming, hope that's fixed everything for you. And yeah, enjoy.